Hello, everybody, and welcome to another CLNS Patriots Roundtable with you here on Super Bowl week, getting you ready for the big game between the Patriots and the Eagles. My name is Alex Barth. I am joined by Mike Petraglia and Marv Ezhan tonight. Guys, how you doing?
Great,
doing
man.
Great. I'm counting down the days until Super Bowl 52. Looking forward to head out there on Saturday.
I don't know how it's only Tuesday. I got to tell you, Trags, we did our last roundtable, I think it was 48 hours ago, and it feels like 2-3 weeks ago. You can check that out, by the way. We touched on the Brady Alex Reamer stuff. We talked a little bit about James White. You can catch that if you missed our previous roundtable on CLNSmedia.com. But new stories today, opening night in the books. Coaches, players have had a chance to talk, and one of the more interesting storylines in the Super Bowl, and you generally run into this as long as Bill Belichick has been in the league, is Bill Belichick in his coaching tree. Tonight it's this week it's going to be Jim Schwartz, who was on his staff back in Cleveland pre-Patriots days, and Schwartz is familiar with Brady too. They've gone head-to-head a few times. Belichick didn't have, couldn't say enough positive about Schwartz, but Trags, will start with you. Does Schwartz really have what it takes to stop Tom Brady?
It's all about the personnel, guys. I mean, I think this is one of the more talented units that he has coached in his time, in his years in the National Football League. And when you take a look at what this Eagles defense is capable of doing, obviously Fletcher, everybody talks about Fletcher Cox. He's a first-team All-Pro defensive tackle right up there with Aaron Donald and Geno Atkins among the very, very best defensive linemen in the National Football League. In his ability to not only stop the run, but also get pressure on the quarterback, disrupt the pocket. He's got veterans like a Timmy Jernigan who can really run stop very well. So I think this is the type of versatile defense that really Jim Schwartz has a lot of weapons at his disposal and could give a lot of different looks at Tom Brady that maybe his defenses of the Detroit Lions and the Buffalo Bills in years past could not do.
Marv, how about you? You know, it seems like every year in the Super Bowl, we're getting some sort of Belichick disciple or disciple of a disciple. And Belichick traditionally has done very well against coaches he's gone against in the past. Is the Belichick-Schwartz relationship any different to you?
Not at all. And like Trags was saying, Schwartz hasn't had a good track record against this New England Patriots team. I believe he's 2-5. The one time he really beat Tom Brady, the New England Patriots, was in 2002, when Brady wasn't developed yet as the Brady we know now. They beat him again in 2006, I believe, and that was when it was week 17, Brady got pulled at halftime. But on paper, Schwartz's defense is built against stopping Tom Brady in that offense. You know, they have the 4-man rush that we always hear about that can really bother Brady. And I know in the past, he didn't have the personnel, but there was times where he had a Ndamukong Suh and Brady lit them up. So, you know, this year with a Fletcher Cox that you mentioned, in a versatile defense on all different phases of their defense, their secondary linebackers and their defensive line, they could cause a bit of problem to this New England Patriots defense. But I think Brady and Belichick are really prepared for this.
One other thing I would add is this Eagles defense does one thing really well, and that is they stop the run. They allowed just 79.2 yards per game on the ground to opposing offenses this year. That was number one in the National Football League. So it's not just about getting to the quarterback. It's about stopping, winning the battle at the line of scrimmage and stopping the run. So if you think it's all, that they're just going to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, you're sadly mistaken. And I'm sure Belichick is telling his offense, and Dante Scarnecchia is making that point to his offensive line. Hey, look, this isn't just about a defensive line that loves to pin its ear back and get after the quarterback. You have got to maintain your ground. You're going to have to get leverage in run situations and move these guys off the ball, which is very hard to do.
And I think in some ways, Trags, to just follow up on that point, Jacksonville was the perfect prep for the Patriots for the Super Bowl because at times, especially down the stretch, we saw them lean on Dion Lewis specifically in the running game to, no pun intended, carry them to wins. Against Jacksonville, Lewis had, 20-something yards, more than half of those coming on one carry. They didn't run the ball against Jacksonville. That was solely on Tom Brady throwing on a great defense. And that's going to kind of be what that's sort of what it's going to need to be to me on Sunday against the Eagles. They can't rely on the running game. We've seen them do it in the past in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, where they'll use the running backs in the running game more than they have in the past. And Trags, we talked about it the other night. If you go back and listen to the previous roundtable, that it still could be a big game for the running backs, but catching the football, not necessarily carrying the ball as much. And
the other thing I would not to cut you off there, Alex, but part of that against the Jaguars was something Belichick always talks about, that you coach to the situation. Patriots were down 10 points. They were down 14-3, and got that late touchdown in the first half. They were down 20-10 with 8.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They couldn't stick with the running game, so that's partly why those running numbers are skewed so low.
I want to remind everybody that sorry, go ahead, Marv.
I was just going to mention, you mentioned past Super Bowls. If you look back, the past two Super Bowls, you can make arguments that James White and Shane Vereen were Super Bowl MVPs in those games through the passing, whether it was 10 to 14 catches a game and getting those 5-6 yards, those special first downs that kept the drives going.
Brady even said after the Super Bowl last year that he thought James White should have been the MVP. And I think if the MVP anoints you the MVP, you're really the MVP.
Yeah, I would say that's safe to say.
Today's roundtable is brought to you by DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code CLNS for free match play. It's also brought to you by Simple Contacts, where you will be blown away by the quality and ease of use. Go to simplecontacts.com/Trags, that's TRAGS, and use promo code TRAGS for $30 off your first order of contact lenses. It's also brought to you by RX Bar. RX Bar is a whole food protein bar. What does that mean? Well, their bars are made with 100% whole ingredients. Support our programming by going to rxbar.com/CLNS and use that promo code CLNS. For listeners can get up to 25% off of their first purchase. We talked a decent amount there about kind of what the Patriots offense will need to do in this game if they want to come away with the win. But I want to flip to the defensive side of the ball for a second here. And one of the first things I thought of after the Eagles won last Sunday was, okay, what are the cornerback matchups going to be? Because that has been one of the hardest things to gauge for the Patriots this year. I feel like every time when I think, okay, it's going to be Malcolm Butler on this guy, Stephon Gilmore on this guy, Deron Harmon helping here, I've been about 50% on that this year. I haven't always gotten it right. So we talked off the air, and lucky enough, all three of us have different matchups we want to focus on. So, Marv, we'll start with you. What Patriot corner on what Eagle wide receiver is the most interesting to you?
A guy I want to focus on, Alex, is Malcolm Butler. This has been a roller coaster season for Butler and not trending upwards, mostly going downwards. You know, he's had a slow year. This is a free agency year for him. Luckily for him, though, you know, this is a weak free agent year in cornerback position, so he will get his money somehow. And this could possibly be his last game in the New England uniform. And I think Malcolm Butler is going to be put on Torrey Smith. I think that's going to be the best matchup for him. Torrey Smith, you know, he's just a down speed receiver, goes straight down the line. And Butler does well against those type of receivers. You know, Butler's been struggling against the double moves, the cross paths, and what receivers do. But with the downfield receiver like Torrey Smith, he can really get physical with him and during the line. And Butler has great makeup speed. So I think a Butler-Torrey Smith matchup will put Butler in the best position and help this Patriots team out a lot.
And that's a guy that's killed the Patriots in the past. I mean, going back to his Ravens days, the missed field goal, the final replacement refs game. Remember, he had the big catch in that one. So an important assignment for Malcolm Butler if that's indeed where they use him.
And Torrey Smith's been quiet this year. You know, he's had games here and there with maybe 2-3 catches, but they've been 2 or 3 important catches during games. So Butler's always going to have to be aware of his situation.
Trax, how about you? Which matchup are you looking at?
I'm looking at Patrick Chung against Zach Ertz. That's the one that I think that most people feel that is going to determine how successful the Patriots are in keeping the Eagles from converting on second and long, third down and long, or even third down period. I think that has got to be the matchup that the Patriots have to win if they're going to win this game. I really think it's that important and that significant to this game.
So that actually leads perfectly into my matchup. I'm going to focus on the big guys, some physical, probably goal line football, in the matchup between Stephon Gilmore and Alshon Jeffrey. I think this is the guy that you bring Stephon Gilmore in to stop, right? A 6-foot corner, likes to play physical at the line. Jeffrey's a guy, if you let him get down the field, he's going to go up. Jump balls are a specialty, but if you can be physical with him at the line, you can slow him down a little bit. Now, Gilmore's played better as of late, right? He had a great game against Jacksonville. But I think, and this goes back to Trag's point, I don't know how much help he's going to have over the top, because I think a lot of the safety resources are going to be in cutting off Nelson Aguilar and Torrey Smith on the deep ball and helping contain Zach Ertz. I think it's going to be Stephon Gilmore and Alshon Jeffrey one-on-one on the outside for much of this game. And as Alshon Jeffrey is gone, the Eagles have gone this year. He's kind of their momentum guy. If they can get him the ball with any regularity, the offense is going to get in a rhythm. He's their body blow guy. So if Stephon Gilmore can take him away, and then they can take away Zach Ertz, that to me is what's going to take Nick Foles out of his comfort zone. If they can couple that with the lead, which last 2 Super Bowls, leads have been scarce, if any. They didn't lead at all in Super Bowl 52, the first ever team to win a Super Bowl without leading it. But if they can get that lead, take away Zach Ertz, and Stephon Gilmore can put in a $15 million a year game, it's going to make things a lot easier for everybody else on the defense.
I don't think there's any question about that. The other tight end, do not forget about Brent Selleck. He is an 11-year veteran who knows the ropes, and he is a Philadelphia hero, but he has stayed around that organization through thick and thin. And I'm telling you right now, he is the kind of guy who could come up with a big catch in a clutch situation, especially if they roll out, 2 tight end packages, like a 12 package where you have one running back, a single setback, and like a Jay Ajayi, or even a LeGarrette Blount closer to the goal line in the red zone, and you have 2 tight ends. Don't forget about Brent Selleck.
The other guy I want to mention, go ahead, Marv. I
think you about to bring him up, but another guy that you mentioned briefly, Alex, was Aguilar.
Yep.
Aguilar's a receiver, and if our predictions are right, which of course they will be, that
100%.
That would
always
mean Eric Rowe would be on Nelson Aguilar. And Aguilar, that's a slot receiver. And Eric Rowe's not your traditional slot corner, but he's big, he's physical. He can be a guy used to try to slow down Aguilar. But like you mentioned, he's going to need some safety help because this guy has a lot of speed. And Eric Rowe, not the greatest cover guy, so he can get beat in those cross routes as well.
I wonder, Eric Rowe, a little bit of a bigger guy. I wonder if they maybe use him on a Brett Selleck, and maybe this is where we hypothetically see Jonathan Batamosi come into the game. One of these other corners they have on the roster. It wouldn't be unlike the Patriots.
No.
He's a guy who's no.
I'm saying that wouldn't surprise me at all, because Belichick is likely to come up with some type of scheme we did not see coming at all. And I think you're onto something. I mean, maybe they do something like that, or maybe they come up with some, exotic combination coverage defense, assuming, of course, that the players have that exotic defensive look down pat when they go into the game.
Today's roundtable is brought to you by DraftKings. Go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code CLNS for free match play. It's also brought to you by Simple Contacts, where you will be blown away by the quality and ease of use. Go to simplecontacts.com/Trags and use the promo code TRAGS, that's TRAGS, for $30 off your first order of contact lenses. This roundtable is also brought to you by RX Bar. RX Bar is a whole food protein bar. What exactly does that mean? Well, their bars are made with 100% whole ingredients. Support our programming by going to rxbar.com/CLNS and use the promo code CLNS, where listeners will receive 25% off their first purchase. So we're talking about the coverages here as we continue on this Patriots roundtable, getting ready for the Super Bowl. And obviously defensive backs are important, but maybe one of the Patriots' best cover guys this year has actually been a linebacker when he's been on the field, and that's Kyle Van Noy. Part of the fun of Super Bowl week, there's only 2 teams for the entire media to cover as opposed to 32. You get the 2 weeks to lead up. We get to learn a little bit more about these guys, and Mike Reese had a fantastic piece on Kyle Van Noy today. Kind of his background, was adopted as a child, played football out at BYU, started with Detroit, had a shaky start there. Now he's really coming into his own with the Patriots. At the beginning of the season was offered an extension. He'll be here, for a bit. And it's cool to kind of see the background of these guys, because we don't get to see this throughout the year, right? Like I said, Super Bowl week is when these stories really come to front. And I've always enjoyed that part of Super Bowl week where you see these guys as human beings and not just football players.
Couldn't agree more. And Kyle Van Noy, I think, has been one of the best stories for the Patriots all season long. And you know what? What I really like about the Kyle Van Noy story is when somebody went down, like Dante Hightower when he tore his pec against the Falcons in that Sunday night game, October 22nd, when he suffered that injury and was lost for the season, who was it that stepped to the fore? Somebody given an opportunity, somebody who was brought on last year, and this year he's been able to really blossom into a player who they've really relied on to do a lot of different things. We mentioned who might be able to cover a tight end out of the backfield. Well, Kyle Van Noy has shown that he's capable of doing that, at least at the line of scrimmage and maybe out into the flat. But Van Noy is just such a terrific story. He's very well liked. I've been down there many times, talked to other players about Van Noy, and they say he is as good a listener as there is in that locker room, and it's what makes him such a popular teammate.
Yeah, I loved reading that Van Noy story as well. It just shows, man, like everyone has a story. And when we watch football, they wear helmets. We see them do strong hits. We think sometimes they're barbaric. They don't have personality. And to see what he's doing, especially in the Mike Reese article, they mentioned the foundation, the money he's raising, and showing his story out there in Super Bowl now. It's 2 years in a row where he can just let other people know, I've struggled too. I've come from a struggle and I've made it. And that's just inspiring to all millions and millions of people across the world. So it's special to see these type of moments, get big and get out there for us to see, because at 52 players, 52 stories, all different.
And I think one of the most interesting things, and that's gone unstated about Van Noy, is that one of his closest teammates, fellow BYU graduate Harvey Longy, undrafted rookie, he was, remember, back in September in a bad car accident. Both him and his wife, they were hospitalized. Longy was on IR. He hasn't played again this year, but I mean, that's somebody who's close personally to Kyle. And, Kyle is kind of driven through that. I would imagine that's been something that's hung over his head all year. And it was a game or two after that Falcons game. This was a few weeks after that happened, that he had one of his best games of the year. So, this is a young kid who came into a new system, adjusted quickly, and he's been able to play even with a lot on his mind. And everything about him, to me, I remember when they traded for him, reading up, and there wasn't much about him. He'd been a special teamer, third stringer in Detroit. It's not like there was this whole spotlight on him, but everything to me seemed to say when he got to New England, this was the kind of guy that Belichick covets, both mentally and physically, in his skill set and his mental abilities. And he hasn't done anything to sway that opinion for me in his, 2 years in Foxborough.
How many times have we said that, Kyle Van Noy missed a tackle or he missed an assignment, or anybody who has ever, I've been on those conference calls with Belichick and the coordinators after the game, and they say Kyle is always seems to find himself in the right spot at the right time. And that is a good football player. You know why that's a good football player? Because it takes planning and preparation and doing a lot of the mental homework that Belichick and the coaching staff require of these players to be in the right place at the right time, especially in critical points of games.
And they missed him a lot during the end of the year when he was hurt. Who would have thought in the beginning of the year we would say, where is Van Noy? I remember in the Miami game that the Patriots lost, you start scratching your head like, wow, you really need a guy like Van Noy, because like you mentioned, Dante Hightower goes down. Who's that leader in that middle of the pack? And that was Van Noy there. And his presence was really felt being gone those past couple of weeks.
And on a more X's and O's standpoint, too, to go back to that Miami game, remember, they kept throwing the ball to Kenyon Drake behind the line of scrimmage, and he was going off 10, 15 a pop per catch. And then again, last week against Jacksonville, they still a little bit of success with it, the Jags did, but it was Van Noy mostly breaking up those plays. So let's close it on this note, because I was kind of scratching my head on it today when this came up as a topic. And it's I know that they haven't won 3 and 4 yet, but it's hard not to compare this Patriots Super Bowl run to the last one. So let me ask you guys this. What player does Kyle Van Noy remind you of most? If you had to compare him to one player from the original Patriots run, who would it be?
Wow.
Marv, you go first. I got to think about this.
Oh, man.
We did not prep this question. I just decided to drop this on these guys. I want a genuine response. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah,
Yes.
Alex, you go first.
So I'm going to go. This is out of left field a little bit. I'm not even going to go with a linebacker. I'm not even going to go with a defensive player. I'm going to go with Kevin Falk because Kyle Van Noy is very strong situationally. And Trags, like you said, really no missed textbook plays. He's not a guy that's going to go over the top and, make a SportsCenter top 10 play, but you never say, man, that's there's those plays where you're sitting there and thinking, I could have made that play. Kyle Van Noy doesn't miss any of those. And that was Kevin Falk to me. Strong situational player, and you could always count on him to be fundamentally sound. So different side of the ball, different position, but I get the same kind of feeling, Trags, like you talked about when Hightower went down. Kevin Falk, very vocal, important leader. Kyle Van Noy has established himself as a vocal leader.
I guess I would probably, from those original teams, I'd have to go with a defensive player. Probably, I'm just going to go out here on a limb and say Ted Johnson. He reminds me of, Kyle Van Noy plays the outside a little bit more, but certainly is a defensive signal caller. But even though I just said Ted Johnson, I'll probably go with Teddy Bruschi because Bruschi was the guy who could really coordinate everything and bring everything together. The reason I wouldn't go Bruschi is the personalities couldn't be any different, right? Right. Bruschi was in your face. He was yelling, screaming. He really commanded the situation on the field with his personality. Kyle Van Noy's not like that in terms of his personality, but in terms of the way he plays the game and how prepared he is and how he studies, that's pretty much the comparison I would make back to those original Patriot dynasty teams.
I like that. Well, I'm thinking, man, I'm about to throw out a name I know we haven't heard in a while. Roosevelt Colvin.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that one.
He free agent, came in, and when he was healthy.
That's a good one, Marvin.
He was a solid linebacker. He like Kyle Van Noy, you can have him on the line, off the line, do the little things that you want. And I would say Roosevelt Colvin.
Well, those are both high praise. Bruschi, Johnson, Coleman, and Falk. So we're putting a lot on Kyle Van Noy. We'll see if he can deliver on Sunday. And of course, we'll have more breakdowns, more comparisons. Maybe we'll see more roundtables coming throughout the week here on CLNS. You can follow us on Twitter at Patriots CLNS, CLNSmedia.com to get all of our Patriots coverage. I want to thank our sponsors of today's roundtable, DraftKings.com. You can go to DraftKings.com and use the promo code CLNS for free match play. I also want to thank Simple Contacts, where you will be blown away by the quality and ease of use. Go to simplecontacts.com/TRAGS, that's TRAGS, and use promo code TRAGS for $30 off your first order of contact lenses. I also want to thank RX Bar, the whole food protein bar. Their bars are made with 100% whole ingredients. Support our programming by going to rxbar.com/CLNS and use the promo code CLNS, where listeners will receive 25% off their first purchase. So we got a lot done in this one, guys, but still a lot to talk about. The game is still 5 days. It's going to be a long 5 days. But we will have more Patriots coverage throughout the week on CLNS Media, at Patriots CLNS on Twitter. For Mike Petraglia and Marv Ezhan, my name's Alex Barth. Thanks for joining us for this Patriots Roundtable. We will talk to you next time.